Welcome to Microlabs. Today's topic is to configure and verify switch virtual interfaces on VLANs. Let's get started. Our task here says replace the router on a switch configuration on R1 and then link it to switch 2 with a point-to-point layer 3 connection. And it says to use the IP addresses given in the network diagram. Configure a default route on switch 2 with router 1's G00 interface as the next hop. Okay, so let's start with router 1. Let's start by issuing the command, the show command. So let's enable, and then we're in the privilege mode. So let's issue the show running config. And then you can press enter to scroll through, or you can tap the spacebar to go through page by page. I like to just scroll through with that enter button to see here. Okay, as you can see, the router's interface G00 has no IP address on there. And as you can see, this is the subnet interfaces. These three right here. Okay, let me enter a command of show IP interface brief. Okay. So there's these ones. Let's remove the subnet interfaces on here. So by doing so, we have to go to config mode, configure terminal, and then we have to issue the command no interface G0/0 .10. Okay. So now we did the G00/.10. So if you press the up arrow, it's going to bring the same command, but then you just delete the 10 and you input the 20, enter, same thing, up arrow, delete the 20 and you enter the 30, enter. Okay, so now you say do show IP interface brief. So let's see the status now. As you can see, it's not in here anymore. So now we have to configure the G00 with an IP address. So we want to do that. I'm going to end out of this and come to configure terminal again. And then we have to issue the interface G0/0 and then IP address of 10.0.0.194 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.252. Enter. Okay, let's see. Looks like we're done with replacing the router on the stick configuration. So what's our next task here? Our next task here is to configure G102 on switch 2. So let's configure that. Okay, I'll go into switch 2, enable it, and let's see the running config on here. So let's say show running config, enter. Let's see here. We got the interface gigabit 10/1, 0/1, 102, 10/3, 10/4, 10/5. Okay, that looks good. Let's go back on the switch 2, and then let's configure it. Let's configure it by saying, oops, go to configure terminal and say interface G gigabit 102. Okay, so we got to say no switch port, no switch port. Now we gotta add the IP address of it. So IP, oops, IP address of 10.0.0.193 and 255.255.255.252. Okay, now we exit from here. Let's say do show IP route. So you know route has been created for this. And the reason is we have to enable it on the switch. So this is a smart switch, so it can route and switch at the same time. So what we got to do is we got to enable it on the switch. Okay, let's issue the IP route, IP route O.O.O.O, O.O.O.O, and then 10.0.0.194. And that is the router's gateway. Okay, so let's check the status. Do show IP route. Okay, that looks good. Okay, looks good to me. So now let's move on to switch to and configure the switch virtual interfaces. Okay, let's start by going onto the switch to and then do show VLAN brief. Okay, so we can see the VLAN 10 and all that. Oops, I just hopped that on. Okay, let's start configuring by issuing the interface VLAN 10. Okay, so let's add the IP address. IP address of 10.0.0.62.255.255.255.192. Okay, now let's do the second one, interface VLAN 20. VLAN 20, yep. And then IP address of 10.0.0.126 and 255.255.255.192. Okay, let's move on to interface VLAN 30. IP address of 10.0.0.190. 255.255.255.192. Okay, let's check this status by issuing the first. Let's exit first and do show IP interface brief. And there's all the VLANs we configured, the SVIs. That looks good to me. Okay, our last task here is says to not last. Number 3 says test the inter-VLAN connectivity by pinging between VLANs. Okay, so I'm gonna ping PC3 from PC7. Okay, so I'm gonna go on PC7 and then ping 10.0.0.129. So I am pinging PC3. Yep. There, we got a reply. That means it's connected. So here it wants us to ping the internet, which is 1.1.1.1. So let's ping the internet by 1.1.1.1. Let's see if we got internet. We are connected to the internet. There, we got a reply on the last one. All right, so that means we did it. And there we are. We are done with the lab. And that is all for now. Like and subscribe so you can get notification on my next upcoming videos of micro labbing. I'll see you on the next one. Okay? Bye now.